deep bellowing of siren horns blared across the floating island of Cyrios, alerting all to the impending danger. A frenetic apprehension instantly permeated all parts of the building and tower-adorned surface of the floaton, its residents scurrying around like ants, working frantically to protect their nest from harm. Aaron felt the panic build within his wiry frame. He knew what the siren signaled, the nature of the threat approaching them, and the impending risk of catastrophe it represented. It was a wave, a swell tidal wave, no doubt spotted by the Aquaterra constellation of orbital monitoring satellites. But Aaron was acutely aware of the folly of indulging his panic, for any hesitation, any momentary lapse in judgment could spell doom for himself and his island. So, he got to work. This was far from his first swell, having spent all of his 21 years living on flotons, cruising the currents and the trade winds of Ozoven's global ocean. Typically though, Cyrios and the islands before that had been out of harm's way, or at the very least, had plenty of time to adjust their heading to move the island out of danger. But this time was different. An errant wave had emerged through the annual period of the swell with little warning, and, against the prevailing modeling from the Congressional Meteorological Office, or CMO, it was a freak wave, unpredictable and unforeseen, and they were the most dangerous. So, Aaron refocused on the task before him, securing the last of the storage crates with the flexi stabs, hoping that the island's precious cargo of raw metal coral ores and dried fish and kelp would remain safe during the wave event. As he finished, his storehouse partner and longtime friend, Maran, completed his own wing of the long shelves, wordlessly confirming a job well done with a thumbs up and a nervous yet determined smile. Aaron and Maran had met as children when their respective families had opted to assume positions as foundation members of a new island floaton, Cyrios. While Aaron's family had previously been on a floaton during his early years, Cyrios was Maran's first floaton, so in those first days, Aaron had taken his young peer under his wing. And as they became fast mates, a friendship born from joint experiences and a shared sense of humor, Aaron knew he could trust Maran with his life, and had on several occasions during their childhood. If he said he had completed his task, then Aaron would never question him. The two friends briskly exited the main warehouse, securing the doors behind them with chain and padlock before turning and basking momentarily in the clear morning ocean breezes brushing against their faces. It would have been a wonderful feeling to savor if it had not been accompanied by their first glimpse of the swell wave. The typically flat cerulean-colored canvas of the ocean waters was broken by what first seemed like a distant set of rolling hills, elevated terrain wholly alien of Ozoven. Yet, only moments later, the details of the wave, breaking caps of white water, rising hundreds of feet into the air, became clear through the ocean haze. The wave was coming. Both Aaron and Maran rushed into the adjoining office of the warehouse and secured themselves to the fixed seating. As they tightened their harnesses, they both felt the island shift, lurching to port with much greater agility and momentum than the floaton's normal set-at pace. It was clear that the pilots had activated the clutch of emergency anti-gravity field generators positioned around the outer, elevated edge of the roughly circular island, and were manipulating the fields to accelerate the floaton away from the path of the wave. As the island accelerated, a sizable bow wave built, and soon, ocean water was cascading over the bow of the island and rushing across the surface like a flood. Yet, all flotons were designed to accommodate such an influx of water, whether it by errant wave or inclement weather, the excess draining away through the street grates and captured by water walls before it could permeate too deep into the island's urban layout. As the floaton accelerated, now traveling perpendicular to the oncoming wave, Aaron shifted his gaze to the closing wall of water approaching them. It was already towering over island and approaching fast. The tidal stresses caused by the conjunction of Ozoven's two moons accelerating the wave to unnatural speeds. Only moments later, the island began to drift up onto the base of the wave itself, the floaton turning to ride the tidal swell. "Woo woo!" Maran yelled exuberantly as the island rose up further and further on the face of the wave, before surfing it down and across thanks to the expert seakeeping of the island's master pilots. Aaron clung to his seat, tipped almost over onto the side for a few moments, unsecured knickknacks tumbling down and gently striking across his face. Yet it was only a few moments before the island's own velocity was reinforced by that of the swell, and soon the floaton accelerated away from the path of the wave. Cyrios was safe and clear. With its reserves of tidal energy-charged mega battery spent, the island slowed and soon moved only at the behest of the sea and air. Aaron sighed with relief, and with his friend in tow, left the storehouse office to surveil the island outside. There was damage, to be sure. The pressures of the rapid acceleration and atypical orientation of the floaton during its surfing caused 2 buildings to collapse and a crane tower structure to crumple. But they had survived. Aaron turned to Marin, a smile on his face and relief filling his heart. He went to speak, to comment with some witty remark to break the collective shocked silence. But before he could utter a word, a heavy blow landed in front of Aaron, propelling him back through the air with great force and causing his body to strike outer wall of the storehouse structure. Dazed and disoriented from the bludgeoning impact, Aaron could barely comprehend the devastation that was being wrought to the floaton, as giant tentacles, several 100 feet long and 30 feet in diameter, laid waste to the surface of the island. And there, where his friend Marin had stood only moments earlier, was left a bloody stain of red ichor on the rough, rusted metal surface. Aaron looked on in horror, forced to sit prone against the storehouse wall with a broken back, as giant tentacles of some unseen gargantuan siphonophore squid rose high into the air before plummeting down atop the island. All his life, his hard work, his future was being taken from him, only moments after he survived the greatest threat the island had ever faced. It seemed so unfair. He could barely register his dread at his own impending demise before another of the tentacles was brought down upon the island by the mega siphonophore, this time crushing Aaron. Such is life on the open seas.